Well, let's see how I did. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the results of last night's Oscars and comparing the actual winners to my picks and predictions. If you haven't already watched my Oscar prediction video, you can check it out here to see not only my personal picks and predictions for all 24 categories, but also my reasoning for those predictions. In this video, we're going to go through all 24 of those categories, and for each, I'm going to tell you the nominees, remind you of my personal pick, recap who I thought would win, and then briefly talk about the actual winner. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, ranked lists, and trailer reactions. Remember, these are just my thoughts, so be sure to post your own personal thoughts on the 2020 Oscars in the comments below. I've already reviewed some of these movies on this channel, so if you want to check those out for some more in-depth thoughts on each of them, I'll put links in the description below, and I'll also link some of them up in the cards as we go along. Alright, let's talk about these results. Actor in a supporting role. The nominees were Tom Hanks in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins in The Two Popes, Al Pacino in The Irishman, Joe Pesci in The Irishman, and Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. My personal pick was Brad Pitt, but I thought Joe Pesci would actually win, and the Oscar went to Brad Pitt. So I started off the night with a correct personal pick, but an incorrect prediction. But I'm glad, because I do think the best performance won here. Brad Pitt was the standout for me in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, even more so than Leonardo DiCaprio was. He was cool and funny and calm, and I think he delivered his best performance in years. Animated feature film. The nominees were How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Claws, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. My personal pick was Toy Story 4, and I also thought it would actually win. And the Oscar went to Toy Story 4. This one was definitely not a surprise, but I'm still so happy that it won. Toy Story has been a really important part of my life. I grew up with Andy, and so Woody and Buzz and the rest of the gang have always felt just as important to me as they did to him. So having these toys back for a continuation of the story was great. It was nostalgic, but it told yet another chapter in this surprisingly deep-themed franchise. Animated short film. The nominees were Daughter, Hair Love, Kit Bull, Memorable, and Sister. My personal pick was Kit Bull, but I thought Hair Love would actually win, and the Oscar went to Hair Love. I knew it would be close between Kit Bull and Hair Love, but my prediction actually panned out here. It just had all the elements that were key to success. Really good animation, fun humor, and a very heartfelt story. I'm really glad to see some more representation at the Oscars, especially in an animation category. Original Screenplay. The nominees were Knives Out, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. My personal pick was Parasite, and I also thought it would actually win. And the Oscar went to Parasite. The first of many wins for Parasite last night. Of all the technical categories it was nominated for, though, this was the one that I thought would be a definite lock. This script was immediately one of the standout elements of the movie for me, and I'm so glad that this well-crafted, twisty, genre-shifting story came out on top. Adapted Screenplay. The nominees were The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, and The Two Popes. My personal pick was Joker, but I thought Little Women would actually win. And the Oscar went to Jojo Rabbit. So this was my first surprise of the night. Surprise sounds a little dramatic, I guess. It's not that I didn't think this movie was deserving, I just really didn't expect it to win. But like I mentioned in my prediction video, I've always found this to be a really tough category to judge because there are so many different factors to consider, like the source material or how closely the adaptation stuck to it. Either way, I'm not unhappy with this outcome. Live action short film. The nominees were Brotherhood, Nefta Football Club, The Neighbors' Window, Saria, and A Sister. My personal pick was The Neighbors' Window, but I thought Saria would actually win, and the Oscar went to The Neighbors' Window. Another correct personal pick, but incorrect prediction. You're going to start seeing a pattern form here. I thought the intensity of Saria would overtake it for the win, but I'm really glad that The Neighbors' Window came out on top. It was a funny and powerful movie that really takes you through the whole spectrum of emotions. Production design. The nominees were The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. My personal pick was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I thought Parasite would actually win. And the Oscar went to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm really happy about this one. I didn't actually think that this had much of a shot to win, but it's the one movie from last year whose production design stood out to me during that first watch. It just screams late 60s Hollywood and really transports you back to that time and place, which is exactly what production design's supposed to do. Costume design. The nominees were The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. My personal pick was Jojo Rabbit, but I thought Little Women would actually win. And the Oscar went to Little Women. Not much of a surprise here. Like I said in my prediction video, they don't call them costume dramas for nothing. It's unfortunate considering how good the costumes are in other movies, but the elaborate poofy dresses of these period dramas will always have the upper hand in this category. Documentary feature. The nominees were American Factory, The Cave, The Edge of Democracy, For Sama, and Honeyland. My personal pick was For Sama, and I also thought it would actually win. And the Oscar went to American Factory. Now this one really surprises me. I thought for sure that For Sama was going to come away with it here. American Factory wasn't bad, and I did enjoy it for the most part, but it just didn't have that Oscar-worthy feel to me. It felt very familiar, but maybe that was part of its charm to people. Familiarity often breeds relatability. Documentary short subject. The nominees were In the Absence, Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone If You're a Girl, Life Overtakes Me, St. Louis Superman, and Walk, Run, Cha-Cha. My personal pick was Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone If You're a Girl, and I also thought it would actually win. And the Oscar went to Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone If You're a Girl. I'm really happy about this one. I was pretty confident in it, but both In the Absence and St. Louis Superman could have given it a run for its money, depending on what type of movie the voting members were looking for. Still, I'm really glad that this unique and uplifting story was recognized. Actress in a supporting role. The nominees were Kathy Bates in Richard Jewell, Laura Dern in Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit, Florence Pugh in Little Women, and Margot Robbie in Bombshell. My personal pick was Scarlett Johansson, but I thought Florence Pugh would actually win. And the Oscar went to Laura Dern. Alright, another bust category for me, but I'm definitely not surprised. In my prediction video, I had narrowed it down to Laura Dern and Florence Pugh before finally going with Pugh, mostly because of the length of her screen time. I thought Dern was decent here, and I know a lot of people really loved her, but personally, I think her performance in Little Women was more deserving of the nomination, and subsequent Oscar, than this performance in Marriage Story. Sound editing. The nominees were Ford v Ferrari, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. My personal pick was Ford v Ferrari, and I also thought it would actually win. And the Oscar went to Ford v Ferrari. So apparently this was a bit of an upset win, but this was the clear choice to me. The other nominees were pretty good, but this was a tough one to beat. Cars and sound effects just go hand in hand. Sound mixing. The nominees were Ad Astra, Ford v Ferrari, Joker, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. My personal pick was 1917, and I also thought it would actually win. And the Oscar went to 1917. 2 for 2 on the sound categories this year, and I couldn't be happier with this win. I thought 1917 was so well crafted from a technical standpoint, and the combination of sound effects, dialogue, and music here was perfect. It really helped to bring this movie together. Cinematography. The nominees were The Irishman, Joker, The Lighthouse, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. My personal pick was 1917, but I thought The Lighthouse would actually win. And the Oscar went to 1917. Well, the most deserving film certainly won it this year, and I'm incredibly happy that the cinematic masterpiece that Roger Deakins crafted came away with the Oscar. I took a chance on predicting The Lighthouse, but I guess I should have stuck with my gut feeling on this one. Film editing. The nominees were Ford v Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Parasite. My personal pick was Ford v Ferrari, but I thought Joker was going to win. And the Oscar went to Ford v Ferrari. It looks like I got another pick right and prediction wrong. I kind of thought Joker would get a few more of these technical categories, but I'm really glad that Ford v Ferrari came out on top here. The editing in this movie was top-notch, especially throughout the racing sequences. It's something that could have very easily gotten monotonous quickly, but it's kept riveting throughout. Visual effects. The nominees were Avengers Endgame, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. My personal pick was The Lion King, but I thought Avengers Endgame would actually win. And the Oscar went to 1917. This one was kinda surprising to me. I knew that The Lion King had no shot, so that wasn't a surprise. But I didn't really think of 1917 as being an effects-heavy movie. Obviously, it had a decent amount, and it was so well done that you didn't notice, but it wasn't really a category that I ever considered 1917 to be in the running for. Makeup and hairstyling. The nominees were Bombshell, Joker, Judy, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and 1917. My personal pick was 1917, but I thought Joker would actually win. And the Oscar went to Bombshell. Of all of the categories last night, this was definitely my biggest surprise. I kind of thought Bombshell seemed a bit out of place on this nominations list, so the fact that it actually won blows me away. Again, it definitely wasn't bad, but makeup and hairstyling weren't the things that ever jumped out at me while watching this movie. But I guess that was the exact reason I chose 1917 as my personal pick, so I can't really be that shocked. International feature film. The nominees were Corpus Christi, Honeyland, Les Miserables, Pain and Glory, and Parasite. My personal pick was Parasite, and I also thought it would actually win. And the Oscar went to Parasite. I'd say that this was the least surprising category of the night, but I'm still so incredibly glad that it won. This was the first South Korean film to be nominated in the category, and obviously the first to win it. As much as I wish I'd been able to see all 53 movies ahead of the ceremony, the fact that Parasite came out on top here makes me feel a bit better about not being able to catch Corpus Christi ahead of yesterday. Still hoping that that one gets a release somewhere around here, though. Original score. The nominees were Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. My personal pick was 1917, and I also thought it would actually win. And the Oscar went to Joker. Well, I can't say I'm surprised. Like I said in my prediction video, I thought Joker had a decent chance here. I just thought the awesomeness of 1917's score and the fact that Thomas Newman now has 15 Oscar nominations with 0 wins would have put it over the top. I really enjoyed Joker's score, but I'm not gonna lie, this was probably the most disappointing category outcome of the night for me. Original song. The nominees were Randy Newman's I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away from Toy Story 4, Elton John and Taron Egerton's I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocketman, Chrissy Metz's I'm Standing With You from Breakthrough, Idina Menzel's Into the Unknown from Frozen 2, and Cynthia Erivo's Stand Up from Harriet. My personal pick was Cynthia Erivo's Stand Up from Harriet, but I thought Elton John and Taron Egerton's I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocketman would actually win. And the Oscar went to Elton John and Taron Egerton's I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocketman. I was getting a little nervous throughout the show as we got to hear each of the nominees perform, but this was the one that I was really confident on going in. Definitely not my personal favorite of the bunch, but it really had everything going for it in terms of getting the win. Directing. The nominees were The Irishman, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. My personal pick was 1917, and I also thought it would actually win. And the Oscar went to Parasite. I was going back and forth between 1917 and Parasite for this category, and even though I eventually settled on 1917, I'm really happy that Parasite won. It's definitely deserved, though I would still argue that Sam Mendes' direction was more impressive and necessary to achieve the technical feat that was 1917. Actor in a leading role. The nominees were Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver in Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, and Jonathan Pryce in The Two Popes. My personal pick was Joaquin Phoenix, and I also thought he would actually win. And the Oscar went to Joaquin Phoenix. Well, no surprise here. Joaquin Phoenix was the clear standout of the nominees, and I'm very pleased with this outcome. His performance was phenomenal, and he really brought the movie to heights it never could have achieved without him. Actress in a leading role. The nominees were Cynthia Erivo in Harriet, Scarlett Johansson in Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan in Little Women, Charlize Theron in Bombshell, and Renee Zellweger in Judy. My personal pick was Renee Zellweger, and I also thought she would actually win. And the Oscar went to Renee Zellweger. She was the clear standout for me, but I did think it would be just about a 50-50 split between her and Scarlett Johansson. What I didn't take into account, though, was the nostalgia for classic Hollywood, and Judy Garland in particular, which probably gave Zellweger that extra push she needed to come out on top. Best Picture. The nominees were Ford v. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. My personal pick was 1917, and I also thought it would actually win. And the Oscar went to Parasite. This was history here. Just like with the directing category, I was going back and forth between Parasite and 1917, but finally settled on 1917, even though Parasite was my #1 movie of 2019. 1917 seemed more like an experience and a technical achievement, but I'm so happy that Parasite won. It's the first foreign language film to ever win Best Picture. It's crazy it took so long, but I'm glad it finally happened. Parasite sweeps the best live-action feature film categories this year, something that's never been done before in the 92 years of Oscar history. Alright, so there you have it, my reaction to the results of the 92nd Academy Awards. I correctly predicted 11 out of 24 winners, and 13 of my 24 personal picks actually won. Combined, I correctly picked or predicted 16 of 24. So not bad, but not great either. I knew some of my picks were a little risky though. How did you do with your predictions? I'd love to see your thoughts on the Oscar results and also your prediction percentage, so be sure to post them in the comments below. Remember, I've already reviewed some of these movies, so I put links to those videos in the description below, and you can check those out if you want some more in-depth discussion of each, as well as my ratings, pros and cons, and even tailored film recommendations. And if you're interested in buying any of these Oscar-nominated and winning movies, I do have affiliate links to most of them in the description below. I do get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insider information out of this video, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button, and if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe to see more videos like this, as well as movie reviews. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.